got to my daughter's house for Thanksgiving dinner. My son-in-law stood at the door like a guard. "Sorry, no space for you today," he said. A paper bag sat on the steps with cold leftovers. "Eat this somewhere else." I smiled. Well, that's interesting, because dogs get treated better than this. I took out my phone and showed my daughter the pictures. Her husband sneaking around with his secretary. If you're watching, hit subscribe and tell me where you're from in the comments. Let me share how a 65-year-old woman learned to fight back. My name is Margaret Chen. At my age, I thought I understood how families work. 4 decades of marriage, 3 kids raised, 2 grandchildren I adore, and a daughter who married someone who treats kindness like weakness. But standing outside 892 Birch Lane that Thursday afternoon in November 2024, clutching a sweet potato casserole I'd been up since dawn making, something clicked inside me. The house looked perfect from outside. Sarah had made Jeremy spend last summer painting everything gray and white. Very modern, very cold. Money from Jeremy's new job as branch manager at the insurance company paid for all of it. Big windows, fancy shutters, expensive fall decorations everywhere. Better Homes and Gardens would give it an award. Too bad the man inside had the heart of a snake. Margaret, Jeremy blocked the whole doorway. His suit probably cost what I spend on food for a month. He'd slicked his hair back like some movie villain. "What brings you here?" I stared at him. "It's Thanksgiving, Jeremy. Sarah told me to come at 3 o'clock. She wrote it on my calendar herself." That was before we confirmed our final numbers. He didn't move an inch. Behind him, I saw the dining table loaded with food. 10 chairs, fancy plates, wine glasses sparkling under the chandelier. Not one spot for me, obviously. "Margaret, I made pumpkin bread." I lifted the dish, trying to stay calm. Sarah's favorite with the cream cheese filling. How sweet. His smile was faker than plastic flowers, but we're actually completely booked. The Hendersons came, plus Jeremy's boss and some people from the office. We just don't have room. Don't have room. In a house with 5 bedrooms and a dining area that could fit 15 people. My stomach felt tight, but I kept my voice steady. Years working as a school secretary taught me patience with difficult people. Maybe I could wait on the couch until dinner ends. I really don't think that's a good idea. Jeremy used that voice people use when talking to confused elderly folks. This is kind of a work thing anyway. Lots of boring business talk. You wouldn't enjoy it. From inside, I heard Sarah laughing. My own daughter. The little girl I'd rocked to sleep 1,000 nights. The teenager who called me crying about every heartbreak. The young woman I'd helped through her wedding planning when money was tight. That Sarah was 20 feet away, probably telling stories while her mother stood outside like some stranger selling magazines door to door. "Can I please just say hello to Sarah? She's talking to Mr. Henderson about something important for my career." Jeremy glanced back into the house, then looked at me again. "Listen, Margaret, I feel bad about the confusion. How about I fix you a 2GO bag?" He vanished for maybe 2 minutes. Came back with a paper sack. Through the bag, I saw turkey bones with hardly any meat, some dried-out rolls, a scoop of plain mashed potatoes. "Here you go." He put the bag on the concrete steps right next to the doormat that said, "Grateful hearts live here." Then he did something I will never forget as long as I live. He pointed at the ground next to the bag. "You can eat right there if you're hungry, like a good little dog." Those words floated in the cold November air like poison. For a second, my brain couldn't understand what my ears just heard. Dog. He compared me to a dog, not even a regular dog, a good dog. The kind that sits quietly and eats scraps without complaining or causing problms. I looked at the bag on the cold steps, then at Jeremy's face. He looked proud of himself. This whole thing was planned, the guest list, the seating, the paper bag, all designed to show me exactly how much I mattered in his world. And that's when I started laughing. Not mean laughter or crazy cackling. Real amusement at how bold he was being. Because dogs, as I told my wonderful son-in-law, are loyal creatures. They don't sneak around. They don't lie about working late. And they definitely don't meet their secretaries at cheap motels every Wednesday night for the past 5 months. I pulled out my phone and opened the photo folder I'd hoped I'd never need. "Speaking of dogs, Jeremy," I said, scrolling to the picture I'd taken last Wednesday when I'd followed his car instead of going to my book club. "At least dogs are faithful, unlike you." The photo was perfectly clear. Jeremy and his secretary, Danielle, walking into the Sunset Motel at 6:15 in the evening. The second photo showed them at the check-in window holding hands. The third showed them kissing outside room 14. I held my phone so he could see everything perfectly. Want me to text these to Sarah right now? Or would you rather explain yourself why you're suddenly working so much overtime? All the color left Jeremy's face like someone pulled a drain plug. His mouth opened and closed like a fish dying on a dock. For the first time since I'd known him, he had absolutely nothing to say. I thought you should know that some old dogs still have teeth, I said sweetly. Then I pressed send on the message I'd already written to Sarah's number. From inside, I heard her phone buzz. Then silence, then a chair falling over. What happened after that changed everything. Sarah came to the door 15 seconds later. Her phone looked like it was burning her hand. Her face was white as paper. She'd gotten a new haircut for today, looked beautiful in her blue dress. Behind her, the dinner guests kept eating and talking, the Hendersons discussing football, Mr. Henderson telling jokes about his golf game. Mom, her voice cracked. What are these pictures? Jeremy tried grabbing the phone from Sarah, but she pushed him away. I watched my daughter's face as she looked at proof of her husband's lies. Each picture brought a new look. Shock, pain, anger, and finally that cold, hard expression she'd gotten from her father. Jeremy, I can explain, he started. His voice was higher than normal. Explain what? She looked from her phone to her husband to me standing on the porch with my pumpkin bread. Explain why Mom is outside with a paper bag. Or explain why you're chatting on me with your secretary. The dinner conversation stopped. Complete quiet except for wind chimes on somebody's porch down the street. It's not what you think, Jeremy said desperately. Those pictures don't show the whole story. Your mother has been following me around, spying like some crazy person. She's trying to wreck our marriage because she's jealous. I had to admit he was smart. When caught doing something wrong, blame the person who caught you. Classic move. Under different circumstances, it might have worked. But he made one big mistake. He'd humiliated me where people could see, and now those same people were about to learn who they'd been eating dinner with. Jealous? I repeated loud enough for everyone to hear. Jeremy, honey, I'm 65 years old. The only thing I'm jealous of is people who still have their dignity. Sarah looked at the paper bag on the steps, then at her husband. You made my mother eat outside? It was a joke, Jeremy said quickly. A silly Thanksgiving prank. She's being dramatic. A prank. Sarah's voice went very quiet. I knew that voice. She'd used it twice before. Once when her college roommate stole money from her. Once when her first boyfriend lied about seeing other girls. You made my mother eat on the steps like an animal as a joke. Mr. Henderson appeared behind Sarah. Coffee cup in his hand. Everything okay here? We're waiting for dessert. Actually, Bill, Sarah said, still staring at Jeremy. I think dinner's finished. That's when Mrs. Henderson called from the dining room. Is that Sarah's mother standing outside? Why isn't she EATING with us? The moment of truth arrived. Everyone was about to learn that the perfect Thanksgiving host had been serving cruelty along with the turkey, because I called out cheerfully, stepping past Jeremy into the house. Apparently there wasn't any room for me at the table. But don't worry. Jeremy made sure I had somewhere to eat. I held up the paper bag for all to see. Everyone gasped at once. Mrs. Henderson's coffee cup stopped moving. Mr. Henderson's friendly face turned to horror. The young couple I didn't know looked at each other in a way that said everything about what they thought of hosts who treated elderly mothers like trash. Oh my lord, Mrs. Henderson whispered. Jeremy, you didn't, it was a misunderstanding, Jeremy said, but his voice was weak. He was watching his carefully built reputation fall apart right in front of him. Sarah held up her phone. And this? Was this a misunderstanding too? She turned the screen toward everyone. I couldn't see their reactions clearly from where I stood, but the silence was louder than screaming. Mr. Henderson put down his coffee cup very carefully. I think maybe Linda and I should head home. Me too, said the young woman whose name I never learned. This seems like private family business. Within 3 minutes, the dinner party dissolved. Guests grabbed coats and bags like people running from a fire. Polite thank yous and happy Thanksgivings were exchanged, but nobody looked at Jeremy directly. When the last guest left, Sarah closed the door and leaned against it. Jeremy stood in his perfect living room, surrounded by the ruins of his perfect Thanksgiving dinner. 10 years, Sarah said quietly. 10 years of marriage, and this is what I get. My mother humiliated at my door while you're chatting on me. Sarah, please, Jeremy tried again. Let me explain about those pictures. It's not what it looks like. Then what is it? She moved closer to him, her voice getting stronger. Explain why you're going to motels with Danielle. Explain why my mother was eating from a paper bag on the porch while you entertained people from your office. I could have said something. Could have told more about what I'd seen over the past 5 months. But this wasn't my moment anymore. This was my daughter finally seeing her husband for who he really was. The motels were for work meetings, Jeremy said weakly, private client discussions. Sarah laughed, but there was no happiness in it. In motel rooms, 5 different times. Mom has pictures from 5 different dates, Jeremy. 5. His face went pale. He hadn't realized I'd been keeping track for MONTHS. You want to know the really sad part? Sarah continued. If you just asked for a divorce, I probably would have split everything fairly and walked away quietly. But instead, you chose to destroy my relationship with my mother while sneaking around. What kind of person does that? Jeremy looked around the room like a trapped animal. The Thanksgiving decorations looked silly now. The expensive furniture seemed to laugh at him. Sarah, I love you, he said desperately. We can work through this. Marriage counseling, whatever you want. Just don't let your mother destroy what we have. That's when I decided I'd heard enough. Jeremy, I said pleasantly, I didn't destroy anything. You did that all by yourself when you decided to treat family like garbage while playing around with your secretary. He turned to face me, and for a moment I saw real hatred in his eyes. This is all your fault. You've been trying to break us up since day one. Have I? I tilted my head thoughtfully, because I remember helping you move into this house. Babysitting your nephew when you needed time alone together. Making dinners when Sarah was sick and you were too busy. But apparently helping family is what crazy old ladies do. Sarah was staring at her husband like she'd never met him before. Is that what you really think of my mom? The question hung in the air like smoke. And in that moment, watching Jeremy search for an answer that wouldn't make things worse, I realized something important. For the first time in 2 years, I wasn't scared of losing my daughter, because I was about to get her back. The silence stretched until Jeremy apparently decided attacking was better than defending. He straightened up and faced Sarah with new energy. Your mother has been manipulating this family for years, he announced. She pretends to be this sweet grandmother, but she's controlling and possessive. She can't stand that you're married and happy. I almost admired his nerve. Almost. Manipulating how exactly? Sarah asked. The constant phone calls, the surprise visits, the way she questions everything I do. Jeremy was talking faster now, his voice getting louder. She undermines my authority in this house at every turn. Your authority? I couldn't help myself. Jeremy, this isn't a kingdom, it's supposed to be a family, see? He pointed at me like he'd won something, right there. That's exactly what I'm talking about. She can't let me be the man of this house. Sarah rubbed her forehead like her head hurt. The man of the house? What does that even mean? It means your husband should come first. Jeremy snapped. Your mother. A woman is supposed to leave her parents and stay with her husband. It's in the Bible. I blinked. In all the years I'd known Jeremy, he'd never shown interest in the Bible except when his boss invited him to church. Did you just quote the Bible to justify cheating on your wife? I asked. His face turned red. I'm not cheating. Sarah held up her phone again. Jeremy, I have pictures of you kissing another woman. What exactly would you call that? It was a moment of weakness. He stammered. Danielle was going through a hard time and I was trying to comfort her. It didn't mean anything. 5 different motels didn't mean anything. It was just a few times and it's over now. Completely over. Sarah walked to the window and stared out at the neighbor's house where lights glowed warm and friendly. A normal family having a normal holiday. The kind of life she'd thought she was building with Jeremy. When did you become someone I don't even know? She asked quietly. The question seemed to surprise Jeremy. For a moment his mask slipped and I saw something that might have been shame. Sarah, I never meant for things to go this far, he said, his voice softer now. The affair, the way I've treated your mother. None of it was planned, it just happened. Things don't just happen, Jeremy. People make choices. She moved toward him, reaching out carefully. I know I've made mistakes, but we can fix this. We can see a counselor, take a trip, start fresh. What about my mom? The question stopped him cold. What about her? Are you going to apologize for humiliating her on Thanksgiving? For making her eat on the porch? Jeremy's eyes moved to me, then back to Sarah. I could see him thinking, trying to figure out what answer would help him most. If that's what it takes, he said finally. If that's what it takes. Sarah turned away from the window. Jeremy, you don't apologize to someone because it's convenient. You apologize because you're genuinely sorry for hurting them. I am sorry, he insisted. Margaret, I'm sorry I hurt your feelings. The porch thing was wrong. I stared at him for a long moment. It was possibly the fakest apology I'd ever heard, and I'd heard some terrible ones in my life. Jeremy, I said carefully, Do you understand why what you did was wrong? Yes, it was mean and unnecessary, but do you understand why it was wrong? He looked confused. Because it hurt your feelings. Sarah closed her eyes. Even she could see that her husband completely missed the point. It was wrong, I said gently, because you treated a human being like they were less than human. It was wrong because you humiliated someone who was vulnerable. It was wrong because you chose cruelty when kindness would have cost you nothing. I said I was sorry, Jeremy protested. You said words that sounded like sorry. That's not the same thing. Sarah sat down heavily on her favorite chair, the one Jeremy had tried to throw away 3 times because it didn't match his decoration plans. Jeremy, do you love me? She asked. Of course I do. Do you respect me? He hesitated just long enough to make the answer obvious. Yes. Then why would you think I'd be okay with you treating my mother like trash? What kind of person did you think you married? The question seemed to genuinely confuse HIM. I realized with perfect clarity that Jeremy had never actually thought about how his actions made Sarah look. In his mind, this was purely about his relationship with Emmy. I thought you'd understand that I needed to set boundaries, he said weakly. Boundaries. Sarah laughed bitterly. Jeremy, the woman raised me alone after Dad left. She worked 2 jobs to pay for my college. She took care of me when I had the flu last year while you were at your golf weekend. What boundaries exactly did you think you needed? She's too involved in our marriage. How is she too involved? Jeremy looked around the room like searching for proof. She calls too much. Once a week. She gives unwanted advice. Like what? Jeremy's voice stopped as he apparently realized he had no real examples. She what, Jeremy? She loves me. She wants to be part of our family. She brings us food and remembers our birthdays and asks about our lives. With each word, Jeremy seemed to get smaller. The confident man who'd blocked the door earlier had been replaced by someone who was finally hearing how his behavior sounded when spoken out loud. I just wanted us to have our own life, he whispered. We do have our own life, Sarah said, but that doesn't mean we have to shut out everyone who loves us. That's not how healthy families work. I watched this conversation happen with mixed feelings. Sadness because my daughter's marriage was clearly over. But hope because she was finally seeing the situation clearly. My phone buzzed with a text message. I glanced at it and felt my heart jump. It was from Bill Henderson, Jeremy's boss. Jeremy, we need to talk Monday. I looked up to find both Sarah and Jeremy staring at me. Everything all right, Mom? Sarah asked. I held up my phone. I think I said slowly, things are about to get even more complicated. Because while we'd been having this family drama, the real world had been moving along without us. And apparently Jeremy's behavior was about to become everyone's problem, not just ours. Who was that? Sarah D. Before I could answer, Jeremy's phone started ringing. He looked at who was calling and went pale. It's Bill, he whispered. Sarah's face got hard. Answer it. Sarah, I don't think answer it, she repeated, her voice like iron, right now, on speaker. Jeremy's hands shook as he answered the call and turned on the speaker. Jeremy. Bill's voice filled the room, tight with anger. We have a problem. Bill, I can't talk right now. You better make time. Linda told me what happened at your house today, how you treated your wife's mother, and now other guests are calling me with some very disturbing information about you and someone from the office. Sarah's face went through several emotions at once. Hurt, rage, and something that looked like relief. The relief, I realized, was finally having proof that her instincts about her husband had been correct. Bill, I can explain, Jeremy said quickly, looking at Sarah with panic in his eyes. I don't want explain. I want you in my office Monday morning at 8. We're going to discuss your future with this company. There was silence on the other end. Who's that? Bill asked. That would be my boss, Jeremy said weakly. The silence that followed was so complete, I could hear the neighbor's dog barking down the street. Oh no, Bill finally whispered. Jeremy, what have you done? What has he done? Sarah leaned forward. Bill, this is Sarah SDVNS. I believe you know about my husband's ACTIVITIES. Sarah, this isn't we never meant for what? For me to find out, for your wife to find out, or for it to happen at all. I had to give Bill credit. When cornered, he chose honesty. For any of it. Sarah, I'm sorry. This should never have happened. How long? Sarah's voice was deadly calm. About 5 months, Bill admitted, maybe 6. Jeremy jumped to his feet. Bill, stop talking, just stop. Actually, Bill, please keep talking, I said pleasantly. I'm particularly interested in how this affects Jeremy's job. Doesn't your company have rules about managers having AFFAIRS with employees they supervise? The silence was loud. Who is that? Bill asked. That's my mother. Sarah said with what sounded like pride. And she's absolutely right. Your company does have those rules, doesn't it? Sarah, please, Jeremy begged, don't destroy my career over this. I'm not destroying anything, Sarah replied. You did that when you decided to risk your job for motel room visits. Bill's voice came through the speaker, smaller now. Jeremy, I think we need to prepare for the possibility that this is going to become official. Official HOW? Jeremy asked. Linda's already called Human Resources. She's filing a complaint about the inappropriate relationship, and she's talking to a lawyer about divorce. Sarah stood up and started PACING. So let me understand this correctly. Not only did you have an affair, but you did it with someone you supervise at work, creating a massive problem that could cost you your job. It wasn't supposed to be like this, Jeremy protested. What was it supposed to be like? I asked curiously. Did you have a plan for how the affair was supposed to go? She turned on me. Stop acting like you're innocent in all this. You've been spying on our private lives like some kind of stalker. Actually, I said mildly, I've been documenting your very public activities. There's a difference between private and secret, dear. Sarah stopped PACING. How long have you known about this, Mom? About 3 months for certain. I suspected longer. Why didn't you tell me? I looked at my daughter. This woman I'd raised from a baby who loved drawing PICTURES to a successful adult who managed a dental office. Because you wouldn't have believed me. And because I knew that eventually the truth would come out on its own. It always does. 3 months, Sarah repeated slowly. She turned to Jeremy. You've been lying to my face for 3 months while I defended you to my mother. I never asked you to defend me, Jeremy snapped. Then immediately looked like he wished he could take it back. No, you just let me do it. You let me tell my mother she was being paranoid when she suggested you were working late too often. You let me make excuses for why you couldn't come to family dinners anymore. You let me choose between you and her knowing you were lying. Bill's voice interrupted. Jeremy, I have to go. Linda's lawyer is calling me. We'll talk Monday. The line went dead. Jeremy sank onto the couch, his perfect Thanksgiving outfit looking suddenly messy. Sarah, please let me explain everything. Everything. Sarah sat across from HIM. Okay, explain everything. Start with why you thought it was appropriate to humiliate my mother on Thanksgiving Day while you're having an affair with someone from work. Those are 2 separate issues. Are they? Because from where I'm sitting, they both seem to be about you thinking you can treat people however you want without consequences. I watched this exchange with fascination. My daughter had found her strength, and it was magnificent to see. The thing with your mother, Jeremy began carefully. That was about setting boundaries. She's been interfering in our marriage since we got married. Interfering HOW. She questions my DCISINS. She makes suggestions about how we should live our lives. She acts like this is still her house. Sarah looked around the living room. This was her house. I bought it from her when she moved to her apartment. Remember, she gave us a deal that saved us $25,000. That's exactly what I mean, Jeremy said triumphantly. She held that over our heads constantly. She never mentioned it. She didn't have to. It was always there, unspoken. Remember how much money I saved you. Remember how generous I was. I blinked. In all my years, I'd never heard such creative rewriting of history. Jeremy, I said gently. When have I ever brought up the money? You didn't have TO. It was implied in everything you said. Sarah shook her head. That's not how my mother operates. She's direct. If she has something to say, she says it. Like today, I added. When I had photos of your husband's affair, I showed them to you directly. No hints, no implications, just facts. Jeremy's face got red. Because you're vindictive and jealous. Vindictive, I considered this. Possibly. Jealous of what exactly? Of our marriage, of Sarah's happiness, of the fact that she chose me over you. The room went very quiet. Even the refrigerator seemed to stop humming. Jeremy, Sarah said slowly, I never chose you over my mother. I chose to build a life with you that included my mother. There's a difference. But she always comes first with you. That's not true. It is true. When she calls, you drop everything. When she needs something, you're there immediately. When she has an opinion about our lives, you listen. Sarah stared at her husband for a long moment. Jeremy, she's my mother. Of course I listen to her. Of course I'm there when she needs me. That's what family means. What about what I need? What do you need? The question seemed to catch him off guard. He opened his mouth, then closed it, then opened it again. I need to feel like I'm the most important person in your life, he said finally. You are the most important person in my life, Sarah said. But that doesn't mean my mother stops mattering. But she interferes. How? She Jeremy's voice stopped as he apparently realized he still had no real examples. She loves US, Sarah said simply. She wants to be part of our lives. She brings us food and remembers our birthdays and asks about our day. That's not interference, Jermy, that's family. But I needed space to build our relationship without her constant presence. So you decided to have an affair instead. The question hung in the air like an accusation, because that's exactly what it was. That's not those things aren't connected, Jeremy protested weakly. Aren't they? I asked. Because it seems to me that someone who's committed to building a strong marriage doesn't usually seek closeness outside that marriage. Jeremy looked at me with something like hatred. You don't understand anything about my marriage. I understand that healthy marriages don't require you to humiliate your partner's family members. I understand that faithful husbands don't spend Wednesday afternoons in motels with their secretars, Sarah added. And I understand, I continued pleasantly, that people who are truly sorry for their behavior don't spend their apologies blaming everyone else for their choices. Jeremy's phone buzzed with a text message. He glanced at it and his face went white. What is it? Sarah asked. It's from Linda Patterson, Bill's wife. What does it say? Jeremy's voice was barely a whisper as he read. I know about you and MY husband. I'm filing for divorce and sending all the evidence to your company's HR department. Have a nice Thanksgiving. Sarah closed her eyes. So this is really happening. Sarah, please, Jeremy begged. Help me figure out how to fix this. She looked at him for a long moment. Then she looked at me. Then she looked around the living room with its perfect Thanksgiving decorations and expensive furniture and carefully created life. Jeremy, she said quietly, I don't think this can be fixed. And that's when he finally started to cry. Jeremy's tears were the kind that come when you realize everything you've built is falling apart faster than you can catch the PIECES. They weren't quiet, controlled tears designed to get sympathy. These were raw, desperate sobs that shook his whole body. Sarah, please, he gasped between BRATHS. I'll do anything. I'll quit my job. I'll cut off all contact with DANILL. I'll apologize to your mother properly. Just please don't give up on US. I watched my daughter's face as she processed her husband's breakdown. There was pain there, but not the devastation you might expect. Instead, there was something that looked almost like relief. Jeremy, she said gently, this isn't just about the affair. Yes, it is. Everything else is fixable. The thing with your mother was just a misunderstanding. A misunderstanding. I couldn't help myself. Jeremy, you made me eat on the porch. What exactly did I misunderstand about that? He turned to face me. Mascara? No, just tears streaming down his cheeks. I was trying to make a point. What point? That you can't just show up whenever you want and expect to be included in everything. Sarah's voice was incredulous. She was invited, Jeremy. I invited her. You invite her to everything but it's my house too. It's OUR house, Sarah CORRECTED. Ours, not yours exclusively. Jeremy wiped his eyes with his sleeve. I just wanted one Thanksgiving where it was just US and the people I chose. The people you chose? I asked. You mean your secretary? The woman you've been having an affair with? They weren't supposed to be there, he admitted. Danielle was supposed to stay home, but she insisted on coming at the last minute because her family was out of town. Sarah sat forward. Wait, you invited your affair partner to Thanksgiving dinner. Not like that. She's a colleague. It made sense from a work perspective. Jeremy, you invited the woman you're sleeping with to Thanksgiving dinner with my mother. The full scope of his poor judgment was finally becoming clear. He hadn't just been having an affair. He'd been showing it off in front of our family while also humiliating the one person who might have helped him if he'd ever genuinely asked for forgiveness. It wasn't supposed to be weird, he said weakly. Not supposed to be weird. Sarah stood up and started packing again. Jeremy, what exactly was your plan here? Were you planning to leave me for DANILL? Were you hoping I'd find out and file for divorce so you wouldn't have to be the bad guy? Were you just planning to keep lying forever? I don't know, he sobbed. I wasn't thinking clearly. For 5 months, you weren't thinking clearly. It just kept getting more complicated. I leaned forward in my chair. Jeremy, can I ask you something? He nodded miserably. Do you actually love my daughter? The question seemed to surprise him. Of course I do. Do you love her enough to put her needs before your own sometimes? Yes. Do you love her enough to treat her family with respect even when you don't particularly like them? He HESIETD. Yes. Do you love her enough to be faithful to your marriage PROMISES? The hesitation was longer this time. Yes. Then WHY, I asked gently. Have you spent the last 5 months doing the exact opposite of all those things? He stared at me with red EYES. I don't know. I think you do know, Sarah said quietly. I think you know exactly why. What do you mean? I think you married me because I represented security and stability and success. I think you thought you could shape me into the wife you wanted while keeping the parts of your life that excited you separate from your marriage. Jeremy's tears had stopped. He was listening carefully now. I think, Sarah continued, you never actually wanted to be part of a family. You wanted to be the center of a universe where everyone revolved around you. That's not true. Isn't it? Because when's the last time you asked about my mother's health? When's the last time you remembered my father's birthday? When's the last time you did something kind for someone in this family without being asked? The silence stretched until it became an answer all by itself. I tried, Jeremy said finally. Did you? Or did you just do the minimum required to keep up appearances? I hosted holiday dinners. You hosted dinner parties where my mother was treated like an inconvenience. I bought birthday gifts. Generic gift cards purchased online the day before. I participated in family events while texting your secretary and complaining about having to be there. Each response hit like a physical blow. I could see Jeremy realizing that his version of being a good husband and son-in-law had been fake at best. Sarah, he whispered, what do you want me to do? She sat back down and looked at him with something that might have been pity. I want you to be honest with yourself and with me. About what? About whether you actually want to be married to me or whether you just want to be married to the idea of me. The question hung in the air between them. I found myself holding my breath, waiting for his answer. I want to be married to you, he said finally. Why? Because we have a good life together. That's not why you marry someone, Jeremy. That's why you enter a business partnership. We have good chemistry, HAD, past tense, and apparently not good enough to keep you from seeking it elsewhere. We want the same things, do we? Because I want a marriage based on honesty and mutual respect and shared values. What do you want? Jeremy opened his mouth to answer, then closed it, then opened it again. I want to feel important, he said finally. I want to feel like I matter. And how has treating my mother like garbage made you feel important? It hasn't. How has having an affair made you feel important? It made me feel desired, chosen. And how has lying to me for 5 months made you feel important? It hasn't. It's made me feel terrible. Sarah nodded slowly. So the things you did to feel important actually made you feel worse? Yes. And now you're about to lose your job, your marriage, and probably most of your friends because Bill's wife is going to make sure everyone knows what happened. Yes. So where does that leave you, S? Jeremy looked around the room as if seeing it clearly for the first time. The expensive decorations, the perfect furniture, the carefully created life he'd built, all of it was about to disappear. I don't know, he admitted. Sarah stood up and walked to the window again. Outside, rain had started falling, washing the neighborhood clean. A Thanksgiving scene that mocked the ugly reality inside our house. I think, she said slowly, you need to decide what kind of person you want to be. Not what kind of husband you want to be or what kind of son-in-law you want to be. What kind of human being you want to be. Sarah, please don't leave me. He turned back to face her. Jeremy, I can't save you from the results of your choices. And honestly, I'm not sure I want to try anymore. What does that mean? It means that the man I married wouldn't have humiliated my mother on Thanksgiving Day. The man I married wouldn't have had an affair with someone from work. The man I married wouldn't have lied to my face for 5 months while I defended him to the people who love me. People change. Yes, they do. And you changed into someone I don't recognize. Jeremy's phone buzzed again. This time it was a call from a number he didn't know. Answer IT, Sarah said. I don't want to answer it anyway. With shaking hands, he accepted the call and put it on speaker. Jeremy SDVNS? The voice was crisp, professional, unfamiliar. Yes. This is Patricia Morris from Human Resources at Henderson Insurance. I need you to come in tomorrow morning at 9 to discuss some serious complaints that have been brought to our attention. The blood drained from Jeremy's face. Tomorrow is the day after Thanksgiving. Yes, it is. 9 o'clock sharp. Don't be late. The line went dead. Sarah looked at her husband with something that might have been compassion. Well, she said quietly, I guess this is really happening. And that's when the doorbell rang and Bill Henderson walked in without KNOCKING. His face grim with purpose. We need to talk, he announced. All of US. Bill Henderson stood in our living room like a man walking to face punishment. His usually neat appearance was messy, hair uncombed, shirt wrinkled. The smell of beer clinging to him like bad perfume. Behind him, rain continued to fall, creating a storm that matched the disaster unfolding in our living room. Bill, what are you doing here? Jeremy asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Linda kicked me out, he said simply. She also sent copies of all the evidence to MY boss and apparently to everyone at the company. He looked around the room, taking in the Thanksgiving decorations and the three faces staring at HIM. Figured we might as well all face this together. Sarah stepped forward. Bill, I think you should leave. Actually, Sarah, I think I should stay, because what I have to say affects all of you. We don't want to hear it, I said pleasantly. This family has had quite enough drama for one Thanksgiving. Bill looked at me with something that might have been respect. Mrs. Chen, right? Margaret, that's correct. You're the one who took the photos. I am. Smart woman. Very thorough documentation. He turned to Sarah. Your mother saved you about 2 years of wondering why your marriage felt wrong. Bill, get out, Jeremy said desperately. Just leave, please. Can't do that, friend. See, Linda's lawyer called me 30 minutes ago. Apparently there's more to this story than just our little affair. The temperature in the room seemed to drop 20 degrees. What do you mean? Sarah asked. Bill sat down on the couch without being invited, like a man who'd given up on being polite. Jeremy, you want to tell them or should I? Tell us what? I asked. Melissa, please don't wait. Who's Melissa? Sarah's voice was sharp with alarm. Bill pulled out his phone and scrolled through it with the slow movements of someone who'd been drinking. Linda's been doing her own investigation. Turns out Jeremy here has been quite busy. What kind of investigation? I asked. Financial. See, Linda used to work in banking before she married me. Old habits never go away. He looked up from his phone. Sarah, when's the last time you checked your joint bank statements? What does that have to do with anything? Humor me. Sarah looked confused but pulled out her phone. I watched her face as she opened their banking app. The confusion transformed into something much more serious. Jeremy, there are charges here I don't recognize. What kind of CHARGES? I asked. Hotels. RESDAURENTS. Jewelry PURCHASES. Her voice got tighter with each item. Jeremy, there's over $6,000 in charges from places I've never been. Bill nodded grimly. That's just the beginning. Linda found evidence of a second credit card. One opened in your name, Sarah, but sent to a mailbox that Jeremy has been using. The silence in the room was deafening. Jeremy, Sarah said slowly. Is this true? She couldn't look at HIM. It's not what you think. What is it then? I needed a way to pay for things without you asking QESDONS. Things like hotel rooms with DANIL. And gifts for DANILLE, she admitted in a whisper. And dinners when we traveled together for work trips. Sarah set her phone down with careful precision. You opened a credit card in MY name to pay for your affair. It was only supposed to be for a short time. Jeremy, that's fraud. It's not fraud if we're married. Spouses can know, I interrupted. Spouses cannot open credit accounts in each other's names without permission. That's stealing identity. Bill was nodding. Linda's lawyer confirmed it. Says it's actually a serious crime if the amounts are large enough. How large? Sarah asked. Bill looked at his phone again. According to Linda's research, about $28,000 over the past 6 months. The number hung in the air like a physical presence. $28,000, not just an affair, but money theft on a huge scale. Sarah, Jeremy said desperately, I can explain everything. Explain what? How you stole nearly $30,000 from me to pay for your affair. It wasn't stealing. I was planning to pay it back. With what money? I was going to get a promotion. Bill promised. I never promised anything, Bill said sharply. I specifically told you not to count on any promotion because of our relationship. Jeremy turned on HIM. You said if I was patient, things would work out. I was talking about us potentially being together someday, not about your job advancement. Sarah stood up quickly. This is unbelievable. You two were planning a future together. Not planning exactly, Bill said. More like HOPING. Hopping for what? For our marriages to end naturally so we could be together without all this mess. I blinked. You were both planning to get divorced. Not planning, Jeremy said quickly. Just if it happened naturally. If it happened naturally. Sarah's voice was getting louder. Jeremy, marriages don't end naturally. They end because people make choices. We thought maybe you'd realize we weren't right together. So you decided to help that realization along by treating my mother like garbage and spending my money on your affair. It wasn't like that. Then what was it like? Bill stood up, swaying a bit. It was like two people who were too scared to end their marriages honestly, so they destroyed them instead. The brutal honesty of his statement seemed to shock everyone into silence. That's what we did, he continued. We created situations that would force our spouses to leave us so we wouldn't have to be the bad guys. Speak for yourself, Jeremy snapped. I am speaking for myself and for you, because that's exactly what you did when you humiliated Sarah's mother today. You were hoping she'd be so disgusted with your behavior that she'd ask for a divorce. Sarah looked at her husband with new understanding. Is that true? No, maybe. I don't know. Jeremy was crying again. I just wanted everything to be different. That's when Sarah walked to the door and opened it wide. Get out, she said quietly. Both of you, get out of my house. And that's when I realized something important. My daughter didn't need me to save her. She'd saved herself. If you're watching this, remember that you teach people how to treat you. And sometimes the best gift you can give yourself is the courage to say enough. Subscribe if this story helped you and share your story in the comments below. Happy Thanksgiving, everyone. And remember, family is who loves you, not who hurts you. Thanks for LISDNING.